Welcome to the Character Sheet, comic book's official home for all things tabletop and fantasy. I am Christian Hoffer, and today I am joined by some very special guests. I am joined by Sam and Michael from Edge Studios to talk about Arkham Horror, the role-playing game. Now, first and foremost, welcome, both of you, to the show. Thank you for joining. Now, if you are unfamiliar with Arkham Horror, that is the Lovecraftian franchise that Asmodee has run. The Mansions of Madness came from Arkham Horror. There's, of course, Arkham Horror, the living card game, which is one of the best games of all time, in my opinion. Absolutely fantastic stuff. And so now we're getting a role-playing game. So my first question, and it's the obvious one, why make a role-playing game based on the Arkham Horror franchise?
I think it matters for me, for the studio as a whole, to have different point of entry in the Arkham Horror universe. And in my opinion, the way, for example, the other Lovecraftian role-playing games are really focused on horror, and in places when you can end up dead or in a asylum. And the way Arkham Horror is, you are mainly playing a hero, and I think it's a really good way of starting a role-playing game, playing a hero, having chances to fight really big monsters with Tommy guns and stuff like that. So the idea is that you've got the entry point from the LCG when you get stories, and it's really good campaign that you have on the LCG. You've got Mansion of Madness, which was even before, which is a really good scenarios, and you've got also books from Aconite that did a lot of things on Arkham. And for me, the role playing game was missing, definitely, because you want for any kind of public, some people prefer scripted stories, some other was just a book. And actually, there are a couple of people that like role playing games. And so, why not do a role playing games from Arkham, especially since it's really different from Call of Cthulhu, in my opinion. And from the start, when we decided to do the Arkham our role playing game, the idea was the first point was accessibility. We want this role playing game to be a gateway to role playing game. So we want people to have no prior knowledge whatsoever on role playing game, except if I don't know they've watched actual play, they heard about role playing game in general, but they played already board games. So they're familiar with rules, whether it's a LCG, it's a board game, it's whatever. But they know a bit about rules. They really wanted to start having their own stories where they've got the freedom of doing whatever they want in a role playing game. And so that's what we are offering with a new game line, and especially with the starter set. The starter set was really the ideas of having that as a gateway to role playing game. Sam,
So,
just compliment and say other things if you want. I mean, he knows better than me for sure.
I think you summed it up. I think you summed it up really well.
No, you need to say additional things because you know a couple of things. You've got a couple of things on your slide, I'm sure.
Um, well, as far as why to do this, like Michael really, I think, hit a point that um, although there are a lot of Lovecraftian Cthulhu mythos role-playing games out there, one thing that we thought was missing in the wider world of RPGs is a game that brings on really merges the Cthulhu horror with that very exciting pulp element. So, I mean, I first played Arkham Horror, the board game, years ago, right? And one of the first things I remember, and one of the first time I played was us fighting off Yig with a shotgun and being super excited as the shotgun had its exploding sixes and just blasting this ancient one, back to the other realms. And we wanted to convey that feeling of like pulpy, heroic excitement in a role-playing game while still having the horror element as well. And so our driving force with the mechanics, with the stories, with the game has been balancing those 2 points. So bad things are going to happen, but the heroes have a chance of winning. They have a chance of saving the day. And yeah, like you can have a lot of fun playing this game, and it's really focused on the fun stories.
Let's talk a little bit about the game system that comes along with Arkham Horror, the role-playing game, because it's brand new. You're not making a 5e. You're not adapting, a game system like Genesis, for instance, which Edge Studios, controls and utilizes in some of its other games. You're using a new game system called the Dynamic Pool System. So run us through it, just like top level. What is the Dynamic Pool System, and also why did you decide on this system for the game?
Let's start with the beginning of it. The idea, so from the start, the idea was to have accessibility and having people that know board games and that could easily grab the rules, and not in the way that we generally do in role-playing games. So from the start, when we start working on that, and I said to Sam, basically, I don't want any calculation whatsoever. No bonuses, no penalties. We don't want people to make subtraction, then multiplication, or whatever. I didn't want that. And the same way, I didn't want to have funky dice. No symbols, but also a dice that everybody is familiar with. You play board games, you get d6s. So the idea from the start was d6s, no calculation whatsoever. And then the idea was also to have a system that is simple to grab in a couple of, I would say even less than 1 minute, couple of minutes, let's say. And from there to have something that will grow, and you will see that it adds depth. And it's not just a basic system, but Sam will go through it for sure.
Sure. So the core of this dice system, the dynamic pool system, is every character has a pool of dice. Most player characters, they all have six-sided dice. And what they're going to be doing when they want to do things is they're going to be spending dice out of their pool. If it's something simple, they just need to spend the die. Like if you're walking from one place to another, you just spend it and you do the thing. But if failure matters and if success matters, then we're going to have you take the dice out of your pool and you're going to roll them. And you get to decide how many dice you invest in this roll to make sure you succeed. So if you are just trying to climb over a wall because you're curious what happens on the other side, maybe you'll roll one die and you need a 4 to get a success, a 4 or higher. And if you don't succeed, oh well. I mean, I guess you just don't get to know what's on the other side of the wall. But let's say you're being chased by a Shoggoth, and if you don't get over this wall, that Shoggoth's going to eat you. Like, that's bad news. You might spend all 6 of your dice to get over that wall because it is literally life or death. And so you'll roll all of those dice, and as long as you get at least 1 success, you'll succeed. Of course, now you've spent all your dice, and you may not be able to do something else important later. So there's resource management. How important is this? How much do I commit to it? The other side of the dice pool is that it is also your hit points. So as you suffer damage, as you get attacked, as that Shoggoth takes a bite out of your leg, your dice pool is going down, and you are having less dice to roll. And as your pool refills, you have less dice in your pool. And you're getting worn down. Now, there are ways to get those dice back, and it's, again, that risk and reward situation. So you can refill your dice pool all the way, but then you're going to strain yourself. You're going to suffer an injury later. You're pushing yourself on a bum leg, and then suddenly the leg gives out later. But that might be what you need to do to survive in that moment. So that's the core concept of this system is you have this pool, you're spending dice out of it, you're refilling it, but as bad things happen, that pool's going down, and you have to decide when you're going to suffer a consequence to get more dice back.
And I would add that to know exactly how much you must do on your dice to get a success is you get 10 stats. It's mix of stats and skills at the same time, but you get 10 stats, and those 10 stats have a notation like 4 plus, 5 plus, 6 plus, whatever. And so the minimum would be 2 plus, but you will not have 2 plus like that. Don't worry. It's more likely to be 4, 5, and 4, 5, and 6 plus. So you know from the start and you will decide tactically speaking, I've got a 6 plus. I really need to succeed at this action. I will not spend just one die. I'll probably spend more than one die. So that's also this part of tactical things, and that's also where we try to appeal to understand. I mean, to things that board gamers are accustomed to. I'm not saying that board gamers are also, for some of them, role players. So it will also appeal to role players. But the idea is that you are in a familiar place. And so you will understand and you will see that there's a tactical part. But the core of role playing game is a story. So a good game system, but then stories and good stories. But you are about to ask a question, Christian.
Oh, well, I always have questions to ask. For the Arkham, so we've talked a little bit about Arkham Horror. Obviously, is a distinct franchise on its own, and we've talked about some of the past things that we've seen out of the Arkham Horror franchise: Mansions of Madness, Arkham Horror the board game, Arkham Horror the card game. Will we see any sort of like Easter eggs? Are we going to see some of the characters from, say, the card game make their way into the Arkham Horror RPGs in some fashion?
Sammy's for you. It's for you.
Well, it's funny you should say that because one, especially with our starting product, the starter set, Hungering Abyss, that has a very strong relationship to one of the very first scenarios in the Arkham Horror card game. And so you will be playing those well-known characters: Joe Diamond, Carolyn Fern, William Yorick,
Rita
as
Young.
yeah, Rita Young, as they investigate ghouls that are attacking Arkham and stealing bodies of. Well, they start with the dead, but you know how ghouls work. They eventually graduate to the living. And so you're playing through a story that people who have played the card game before will recognize elements of it, although we get to, because we're making a role-playing game, we get to make it much more immersive, and you have a lot more choices as to what you do in that game. Now, as we move on from the starter set, we're going to be telling more additional stories. We're also going to let you build your own characters, because that's a fundamental part of a role-playing game. But you're still going to run into those famous characters in the Arkham lore, both good and bad. I mean, how could we resist, for example, making Carl Sanford not show up as a villain, or ally question mark maybe in some things, because I mean he's just too perfect for that. And at the same time, partnering up with some of the major characters that you get to play as like allied NPCs, that'll be awesome too.
So what sort of products can we expect to see from the Arkham Horror RPG line? Obviously, the starter set's been announced. Assumably there will be a core rulebook coming out in the future. Will we be seeing like regular adventure releases? Will there be expansions? How big does this RPG get?
The idea and the plan, and that we're working on, is to have 3 releases a year, meaning that you will have summer, fall, and winter. And so the point of, you've got the starter set, which is the starting point of everything. Then in Q4 of this year, you will have the core rulebook. But in the core rulebook, because you create your own stories and your own characters, there will be scenarios also inside it, for sure. The idea is to have always stories in anything we do, because that's the centerpiece of everything in terms of, especially on Arkham. And then there will be, so we'll work by city cycle, I would say. So in the core rulebook, we talk for about Arkham. And so in this winter, I would say Q1 25, Yeah, that's 25. There will be a adventure collection that will be released based on Arkham called Arkham Mysteries. So you will have an adventure collection, and then the line will move on. I cannot move. I'm already saying something I should not say, but as I'm head of studio, I guess I will have to hit myself. Um, but yeah, the idea is to really have a lot of stories, a lot with background, but everything that is in the book is supposed to be used. So we'll not have books that will be 400 pages long, because at the end of the day, when you've got a 400 or 500 pages long book, it end up in the shelf. You read it from time to time, but you don't use everything you've got inside it. And so the idea is to have a density of ideas that you can really use and that you will use in the future. So when you will move to the core rulebook, you will create your own story if you want, but you will still have plenty of scenarios coming your way, basically. And so we'll supply it, and so 3 releases a year, so box summer, and the rest of the year, so fall and winter would be books.
Okay. One final question, a little bit out of order, but I thought of this.
I'm going everywhere, so don't worry. Don't
Oh
worry.
no. Like usually there's like a tone and a cadence to these sort of things. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot to ask like one of the most obvious questions. How easy is this to run as a DM? Like I'm someone who's always running games for my players. How easy will this be for me to run?
So Sam will explain later, just after me, but I want to explain what is the point of the starter set. So when you start, before you pass your driving license, you didn't know anything about driving. You pass your driving license, and then you said, "Okay, I know to drive." Sort of. I mean, you know the basic of things, and then you move on and you get experience at driving. The starter set is exactly that for both players and GMs. So meaning that you can actually really run and start being a GM from the starter set, and then you will build your skill through that, either by just keeping buying boxes or moving to the core rulebook and then doing the other scenarios. So you will really build that. So you've got for sure text to read aloud, a lot of things that will explain things, and the starter set has been made so that it addresses the main preconception on role-playing games. So I would summarize a couple of them. First thing, role-playing games take a long time. So the starter set is set up as a 10 1-hour scenes. So you can actually play one lunch break at a time. For sure, a veteran role player as a GM will probably expand each scenes, but somebody just starting can just prep one scene at a time or a couple of them, but not much. And if they want just play once a day or once a week, or just do a binge play during the weekend, they can do it. You've got hundreds of pages and rules. Inside the starter set, there's a lot of material, but the booklet that teach you the ropes of the adventure and the rule at the same time is only 48 pages long. But you've got lots of physical handouts and stuff around, tokens, dice, whatever. So it really is. So that's really the second preconception for me regarding role-playing games. So third would be rules are complicated. So we already talk about rules. It's really simple in this way, but it's still tactical. And the fourth is, as I was just saying, GMing is art. You need to be gifted. No, everybody is able to drive as long as they pass their driving license and they get experience at driving. That's exactly the same thing with role-playing games, and that's what we do with the starter set. Sam?
I think so. I'm certainly biased at having run a lot of role-playing games in my time, but running this for various testers and groups that we worked on, the feedback was always, this is really easy to grasp. There might be questions about minutia and details and so forth, but the core concept was always pretty easy to pick up. I think it helps that you have those dice sitting in front of you. So you know what you can do. and you have that resource. It's so it's very easy to identify. Honestly, the biggest thing that I think GMs were learning was when to start a new scene, to refresh those dice pools, to keep people going with the action. And as soon as they sort of picked up that cadence and rhythm, it went real well. It went really well indeed.
Okay. Well, the Arkham Horror tabletop role-playing game, the starter set goes on sale. By the time this video comes out, it'll probably be, it officially comes out August 6th, I believe. Is that correct?
August 2nd.
August 2nd. See, so it will be out next week. It will be out next week. If you're at Gen Con, you can come and pick it up. We've been talking about Gen Con a lot on this channel because it's coming up and I'll be there. I guess hint, hint, say hi. But pick up Arkham Horror, the role-playing game, at Gen Con. It'll be your first chance to get it, and it goes on sale everywhere on August 2nd. So be sure to check out the game. So Sam and Michael, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time. We can't wait to check out the game. Really hoping to chuck some dice and, kill some, Lovecraftian monsters here soon, or die trying at least. And we're looking forward to it. So thank you so much. Also, as always, I'm going to end with the usual YouTube disclaimers. Be sure to like and subscribe, leave comments, do all the things to help the channel, with the algorithms. I have to say it, or otherwise, it won't happen. But thank you so much again. And until next time, thanks for watching.